the first stitch tore open more than silk. It ripped apart years of humiliation, exposed a painful family secret, and forced an entire town to confront the woman they had ignored for far too long. Before the bride even reached the aisle, guests were whispering, some were crying, and those who had spent years mocking the quiet seamstress suddenly realized they had never truly seen the extraordinary heart hidden behind her humble workbench. What happened that sunny afternoon would become the story people told for generations, reminding everyone that kindness is often dressed in the simplest clothes. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel. By becoming part of our community, you help keep these heartfelt stories alive for everyone who believes that compassion can still change lives. Every morning, while the golden sunlight poured across the peaceful streets of the little town of Maple Ridge, the tiny sewing shop on Willow Avenue quietly opened its faded blue door. The shop belonged to Maren Holloway, a woman whose voice was rarely heard above a whisper. She was neither famous nor wealthy. She lived alone in a modest cottage filled with neatly folded fabrics, jars of buttons collected over decades, and an old sewing machine that had belonged to her grandmother. The people who truly knew her understood that every careful stitch she made carried patience, honesty, and love. Sadly, very few people cared enough to know her. To most of the town, Maren was simply the odd woman who spent her days fixing torn sleeves, shortening trousers, and mending old quilts while keeping her eyes lowered whenever someone spoke to her. Her quiet nature invited cruel assumptions. Some believed she was unfriendly. Others called her strange. Young people laughed whenever they passed her tiny shop, joking that she belonged in another century. Even customers often bargained unfairly, pretending her work required little effort because she never argued. Maren accepted every insult with the same gentle smile. Not because the words failed to hurt, but because she had learned long ago that bitterness only added another burden to an already heavy heart. Years earlier, after losing both her parents within a short time, Maren had inherited only the sewing machine and the tiny shop. She had once dreamed of studying fashion design in the city, but life had demanded sacrifice instead of ambition. Bills replaced dreams, responsibility replaced adventure, and little by little she stitched together enough income simply to survive. Although her own future seemed smaller every year, she secretly found joy in helping others celebrate life's happiest moments. Nothing brought her greater satisfaction than sewing wedding dresses. Each dress represented hope beginning again. She believed every bride deserved to feel beautiful, regardless of wealth. That belief would soon be tested. Across town, preparations filled the spacious home of Beatrice Whitmore, daughter of one of the wealthiest families in Maple Ridge. The wedding had become the event everyone anticipated. The guest list included local politicians, business owners, newspaper reporters, and nearly every respected citizen in town. Every florist, baker, musician, and decorator competed for the honor of participating. When the expensive designer hired by the Whitmore family suddenly suffered a serious injury only 2 weeks before the ceremony, panic spread through the household. No replacement accepted such impossible deadlines. Finally, someone reluctantly suggested the quiet seamstress. The recommendation was greeted with laughter. Several relatives openly mocked the idea. They insisted a woman who spent her days repairing old jackets could never create an elegant wedding gown worthy of their family name. But desperation overpowered pride. Beatrice herself visited Maren's little shop. Unlike many others, the young bride carried kindness in her heart. She apologized for the short notice and admitted no one else believed the dress could be completed. Maren simply smiled. She measured carefully. She listened patiently. She studied every detail of the unfinished fabric. Then she softly promised to do her very best. The following days became an exhausting race against time. Morning sunlight entered the workshop before Maren finished her first cup of tea, and evening sunlight lingered while she continued guiding delicate lace beneath the old sewing machine. Her hands grew sore. Her eyesight blurred. Yet she refused to rush the tiny details invisible to everyone except someone who truly loved craftsmanship. Unknown to the Whitmore family, Maren quietly purchased additional fabric using nearly all her personal savings because the original material contained flaws that would eventually weaken the gown. She never mentioned the expense. She considered it part of doing the job properly. Meanwhile, gossip filled the town. People predicted disaster. They joked that the wealthy family deserved embarrassment for trusting an insignificant seamstress. Some even placed friendly wagers over how quickly the dress would fall apart. Maren heard every rumor. She continued sewing. The wedding morning arrived beneath a brilliant blue sky. Warm sunlight covered the church gardens, children chased butterflies across the grass, and white flowers danced gently beneath the summer breeze. Guests admired expensive decorations while photographers prepared their cameras. Inside the bridal room, Maren personally delivered the finished gown. The room fell silent. No one expected such breathtaking beauty. The dress seemed almost alive beneath the daylight, its elegant lace flowing like gentle waves while tiny hand-sewn pearls shimmered softly without appearing extravagant. Every stitch reflected extraordinary care. For the first time, even Beatrice's critical relatives struggled to find fault. The bride looked into the mirror. Tears filled her eyes. She had never imagined herself looking so graceful. As Maren quietly prepared to leave unnoticed, one elderly woman stepped forward. Her name was Eleanor Whitmore, the bride's grandmother. She slowly touched the embroidery near the heart. Then she froze. Hidden among the floral patterns was a tiny design only she recognized. Many decades earlier, Eleanor's own mother had embroidered the exact same symbol onto her wedding dress before the family lost everything during difficult economic times. No designer outside their family could possibly know that forgotten tradition. Confused, Eleanor gently asked Maren where she had learned the pattern. For the first time all morning, Maren hesitated. She admitted that years ago an elderly woman had entered her shop carrying an old trunk damaged by rain. Inside rested several ruined family heirlooms, including pieces of a wedding gown almost destroyed beyond repair. The woman had lacked enough money for restoration, so Maren repaired every piece without charging a single penny. Before leaving, the grateful stranger had explained the meaning behind the embroidered symbol and begged Maren to preserve the tradition whenever she believed a marriage was built upon genuine love. Eleanor covered her mouth. The elderly woman had been her own estranged sister. After decades of silence caused by a bitter inheritance dispute, the family had lost contact entirely. No one even knew what had become of her. The restored dress had remained one of her sister's final treasured possessions before she passed away. Without realizing it, Maren had carried forward a forgotten act of love that reunited a broken family tradition. News spread rapidly through the church. The atmosphere transformed. People stopped discussing wealth. They stopped comparing decorations. Instead, they spoke quietly about generosity, memory, and unexpected kindness. Just before the ceremony began, another surprise emerged. A young woman named Clara approached Maren with tears streaming down her cheeks. Years earlier, when Clara had been struggling as a single mother with almost nothing to her name, Maren had secretly repaired school uniforms for her children every autumn without accepting payment. Clara had never forgotten but had been too ashamed to tell anyone. Then an elderly veteran remembered how Maren had repaired his late wife's favorite coat free of charge because she knew its sentimental value. Then a schoolteacher recalled dozens of costumes Maren quietly made for children whose families could not afford them. One by one, stories surfaced like hidden treasures buried beneath years of misunderstanding. Every tale revealed another quiet act of compassion. The crowd slowly realized something remarkable. Nearly everyone present had benefited directly or indirectly from Maren's kindness. They simply had never noticed because she never sought recognition. The people who had laughed the loudest lowered their eyes. Embarrassment replaced pride. The mayor himself approached Maren with sincere regret, admitting the town had underestimated someone whose generosity had strengthened countless lives without applause. Marin accepted every apology with gentle grace. She carried no list of old offenses. She had never been sowing for praise. She had simply believed every person deserved dignity. When Beatrice finally walked down the aisle wearing the magnificent gown, guests admired more than beautiful fabric. They saw patience woven into every seam, sacrifice hidden beneath every fold, and compassion stitched into every delicate detail. The dress had become more than clothing. It had become a visible reminder that true beauty is created by hands guided by love rather than pride. After the joyful ceremony ended beneath the warm afternoon sun, the bride made an unexpected announcement before all the guests. Instead of throwing away decorative flowers after the celebration, the family would deliver them to hospitals and retirement homes so others could experience beauty as well. She also revealed that a permanent scholarship for young students interested in tailoring and textile arts would be established in Marin's honor, ensuring future generations could learn both craftsmanship and kindness together. The crowd erupted into heartfelt applause. Many people wiped tears from their faces. For the first time in many years, Marin stood at the center of attention. Yet she remained exactly the same humble woman who had quietly opened her little shop every morning. Recognition had not changed her heart. It had simply allowed others to finally see it. In the months that followed, Maple Ridge changed in unexpected ways. Customers stopped bargaining unfairly with local craftsmen. Young volunteers organized repair days for elderly neighbors. Schools invited artisans to teach children that honest work deserved respect regardless of wealth or popularity. Marin's little shop became a place where lonely people found conversation, struggling families found encouragement, and young dreamers learned that success measured only by money often overlooked the richest lives of all. The faded blue door remained the same. The old sewing machine continued humming beneath bright daylight. But the laughter outside disappeared. It had been replaced by gratitude. Before we reach the end of this story, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever known someone whose quiet kindness was overlooked until much later? Please leave a meaningful comment sharing the lesson this story reminded you of, because your words may encourage someone else who feels unseen today. Years later, people no longer remembered the expensive decorations, the lavish banquet, or the famous guests who attended the Whitmore wedding. They remembered the humble seamstress whose invisible goodness became impossible to ignore. They remembered that one wedding dress had mended more than fabric. It had repaired broken hearts, restored forgotten family bonds, humbled the proud, inspired generosity, and reminded an entire town that greatness rarely announces itself. Sometimes it sits silently behind a worn wooden table, patiently stitching hope into the lives of strangers one careful thread at a time. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May we all remember that the quietest hands often perform the greatest miracles, and that every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to change someone's life forever.